risers everywhere. Exactly.
Hello everybody, thanks for watching. We got down to the creek today and we noticed that we had risers. They were trout and they were tearing up some kind of little mayfly. My son noticed, he's like, they're rising and they are trout, and he was really excited. And stupid me, can't get my line wrapped around the end of my pole undone. Started throwing a big streamer, and in a minute I say, what am I doing? There's risers, I need to be throwing a dry fly. So I switched up pretty quick. If you look, you can see a white marabou strand feather on my sleeve. I don't know how long it'd been there, never noticed it until I started watching the video. You can see fish popping everywhere. I finally got the idea.
What am
I
I
need a dry
doing?
fly.
I'm throwing a big streamer with fish rising all around me.
I tie on one of my favorite flies. It's a size 14 Adams Irresistible. It's one of my favorite flies starting out. You catch tons of bluegill on it. Underneath it, on the dropper, I had a Higgins SOS. And whatever the bug was that was hatching was small and black. And I tell my son, I think they're taking emergers, but just coming out of the water. Needless to say, it worked. By this time, Elijah's waded across the creek and he's casting into the other side of the flow that's coming in this little pool. I think he's using a France fly, and I'm not sure what dry fly he was using, but it's mostly taking the dropper, whatever we had. You can see here in a minute, Elijah gets into him one about right here. It's not very big, but they sure was a lot of fun. There was a lot of them. I don't know for sure how many we caught. It was like this all up and down the creek. Not really sure what bug was hatching, but they were they were definitely had their feed bag on. About this time, I realized I I need some floating. I
I think they're
didn't
taking
dip
emergers.
the fly in floating like I normally do.
Well,
The
every one of
silicone
mine's been
floating
on the
before I
dropper.
started, and I'd actually put up all of my dry fly floating in the dry shake dust and everything because didn't really need it in
I'm gonna
wintertime.
put some floating in.
But I switch out here in a minute. Well, I found the floating down in my sling bag somewhere. I switched out the dry fly I had to stubby chubby, and so I'd be able to see it a little better, and the foam it'll help it float. I kept the same Higgins SOS on the dropper, and seems to be doing good. Just one fish right after another.
Blue wing? They're really
You can
small.
see Elijah in the background. He's been over taking a picture of one of the bugs that was hatching, and he couldn't identify it either. More than likely, it had to be blue wing olive, because it's basically
Like I
about the
said, I
same
believe they're
size
getting
as
mergers.
the small dropper flies that we were using. And
They're getting them and
I never really paid
putting it out of the
attention to
water.
them. I was just too busy watching the fish jump out of the water. I don't think they were actually taking the actual dry fly on top of the water. I think they were hitting the emergers coming up, but they were hitting them with such force as coming completely out of the water. Coming out, we met two ladies that were walking, and they asked us had we caught any fish, and we normally don't really tell people we've caught any fish, not wanting anybody to know where our secret spots are. But they didn't look like fishermen, and I didn't think they really cared, and all the people around there is super nice. But I told them, I said, yeah, we caught a bunch, but they were fish that we'd probably get made fun of. I know at work, my old boss, he used to make fun of pictures of fish. He had like giant stripers, and here I am showing like a 4-inch brook trout. But these little wild fish, I mean, people just don't understand how hard it is to catch them. This is not the stock trout. And when you find them rising like this with just pure abandonment, they just, oh God, we gotta eat, and they're just flying completely out of the water. I mean, this is just unreal, and you have to savor times like this, because most of the time they're laying on the bottom, and you have to basically hit them in the face with a hook to get them to bite.
Throwing a mini chubby in the wind is not easy.
Is you got a lot of strike detection with a mono line like I'm using, but when it comes to casting a dry fly, especially a little foam fly like that, it's kind of difficult. We had a lot of wind, which dry dropper was the way to go today, or streamer, because they was sometimes the wind was gusting, and it was just carrying straight up the creek, and it put like a 2-foot bow in my cider. So that's that's the way it is. Not using a net on any of these fish, because when they're smaller fish, I think it does more harm than good to use a net on them. As long as you wet your hand and gives you a little bit of access to get the hook out. When it comes to bigger fish, I like the net, so I can actually hold them with the net. Just put my hand around them in the net, and it adds a little bit of grip to take the hook out. But Elijah, he's not netting them, because his net is a little bit bigger, and these small fish would probably go through the holes. I get a little too cocky moving around in the creek here. I paid more attention to the fish than the depth of the water, and I'm only wearing hip waders, the chota that you can pull up and down. they're really good for like the Smokies, where you may not be standing in water that deep, and you definitely don't need chest waders. Elijah, he likes dressing like a fly fisherman, he says, and which he was in better shape than me, because I make a step here pretty soon, not knowing it, and yeah, that water is really cold. And me saying this one's a better fish, it's relative, since how the last one was like a giant minnow. As you can see, I've only got like 12 to 18 inches of dropper. So as I said, I'm pretty sure they were taking the mergers, and it worked out. The rod I'm using, believe it or not, only costs $68. It's a 10-foot, 2-inch, 3-weight, and I like using it for a streamer fishing, which I was planning on doing today until we got to the creek. And the reel was only $20, one of the little cheap specials from Amazon. So it's been a good outfit for the price.
I thought it took my fly.
There was most likely better fish in there. Elijah said he saw one, maybe 14 inches. It's just these little fish were so aggressive. They were taking whatever went by before the bigger fish could even get close to it. The take I had on that one, I'm pretty sure it wasn't one of the smaller fish. It was a big one, because it hit hard. This is just a little bit later. You see Elijah over there tying something else on. I took the dry fly off and put a Pat's rubber leg on there to hopefully get the fly down, maybe get into some of the bigger fish on the bottom. They may want the bigger stonefly imitation, and get down there below some of the smaller fish, the aggressive ones. But still had success. They were still chasing down that little Higgins SOS. Here's a spot a little further upstream. I'm not real good at this videoing, and I've let my batteries run down. I filled the card up. But this is a really good spot right here. I just wish I had more video of it. And we did catch fish up in here, although Elijah made fun of me. The one that I caught had went for one fly and missed it, and then when I set the hook, kind of got him in the tail. But it's fun either way. you've made it this far, I thank you for watching all of it. I'll try to make better videos and do better in the future. I don't know about the camera, but tight lines, y'all.